All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to today's MBTI Debrief video. My name, of course, is Merja and Lisa. You may know that already. I'm the personality decoder, and I'm certified MBTI practitioner and a master integration mentor with Simulov Academy of Human Integration. And today, as always, on these MBTI Debriefs, I am with the joy genius, Lisa Payne, who is an Enneagram profiler. And she's also known as an emotional archaeologist, and she's also a senior integration mentor with the Simulov Academy. So I'm super excited to be here today because I know what the topic is. But Lisa, over to you. What are we talking about today?
Today's topic is, what is failing forward and why is it important?
Whoa, yeah, I love this topic because, interestingly, this is one of the things that explains a lot of why we perhaps don't get as far in our personal development as quickly as we want to. And then simultaneously, this might explain why other people appear quite persistent in how they're approaching life. So I'm so excited about this. So let me make a statement that kind of covers a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, and that is that failing forward is really a concept of reframing our failures into opportunities to learn. So we might be familiar with the OODA loop, we might be familiar with all kinds of other ways, different ways of saying the same thing, which is when we fail, we don't actually fail necessarily. We have the opportunity to learn. So yeah, I want everybody to kind of think a little bit about, if you knew that you couldn't fail, what would you go for in life? Like if failure was no longer a thing. What about you, Lisa? What would you go for life if you knew you couldn't fail? Now, keeping in mind that you've been doing this work for a long time, which means that you may have already adopted this methodology.
If I think about this a lot, if I couldn't fail, what I would do is all of the things that are in my head that I should do, I would just do them. I wouldn't waste the time thinking about, what if this? What could happen if this? How could I do it this way? It would be a case of next steps. Yeah. And I would keep doing that, especially when it comes to my work, because a lot that happens with me when it comes to failing forward, and it's what goes into it before I actually do the failing forward. It's the overthinking part.
Oh, yeah.
It's the acting on emotions part rather than pulling myself out. It's okay to be emotional. It's not okay for me to make decisions in a heightened emotional state. Because that's when I will always have to fail forward. I can save myself, and I do now save myself a lot of energy by telling myself, okay, just do it. If it didn't work out quite the way I want it to, I can think, then I can analyze, and then I can put together a plan to do it again in a different way. Failing forward is one of the biggest parts of my life.
Okay, that's really interesting, and I think a lot of people can really relate to those points that you made, because a lot of people probably who are tuning into this is an overthinker. I certainly would subscribe to that. And I know a lot of our clients are, and a lot of the people in our audience are. If you're an overthinker, by the way, pop us a little message in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah. We got you.
We like to know that we're not alone in all this.
Exactly. We need that validation. No, yes. If you feel comfortable, yes. Pop it in there. But that's a really good point. It's the chatter. Like, it's almost like before we allow ourselves the permission to fail forward, we need to to dampen down that chatter in our heads. But it not but specifically, but also and it's interesting how we become convinced that if we're trying something new, that we would just automatically know how to do it. And of course, that's how to set yourself up for for a guaranteed failure is to think you should know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How
That's what
can
used
you?
to happen to me. That's what used to happen to me when I was a child. If
Yeah,
I was going to do something, I did it the first time, and if I didn't do it perfectly, I would give it up because
yeah,
I'm clearly never going to know how to do this right because I can't do it right the first time.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
come on.
And most people are afraid of failure. You know, they believe that failing in something is the same thing as being a failure, which of course it's not.
Yeah.
Failure is actually an event. It's an occurrence. It you know, it's something that happened rather than you as a person. And I know that a lot of people have had experiences where, you know, their mother or their father or their teacher or their grandparents or whomever somebody said to you that you're a failure or that you failed, you know, and therefore you kind of internalize it as, oh, then I must be a failure. But if somebody has actually called us a failure, it's not because we are a failure, it's because we have failed to fulfill their expectations of us, their picture of who we are. And that has nothing necessarily whatsoever to do with us. And I can't stress this enough that failure is an event. It's not a person. Something that I think that I would have done way, way, way before that I'm doing now, if I believed that I couldn't fail, was setting our online safe house, our personal and professional development safe house, sumilof.com. And you and I, Lisa, we've been in meetings with my mentor, you know, who thinks, of course you can do it, just do it, you know. We had a meeting in, I think, June last year, 2020, 2021, and I said to Kevin, you know, I'll get it up and running in 5 years. You remember?
I do remember it. His face was like, 5 years? What are you waiting for?
And that's exactly what he said. And my response to that was, I don't feel comfortable that I'll know what I need to know in order to get it done earlier. Now, when Kevin said, well, you know, what are you waiting for? Like, you know, what you can do it like in January. And I was like, I don't think I can, but then we need to listen to our mentors. They know us. They can see in us our capacity, even if we don't see it in ourselves in that moment. And actually, I started working on it in August, and we're doing the beta testing right now. This is January, end of January, early February, 2022. And so, yeah, he was right. And so we're officially launching the platform in the next coming month. So he was right. So I was holding myself back from the failure of not knowing how to technically build a platform. And as it turns out, when I adjusted my expectations of myself, it's actually been really easy.
Yes.
But it required me to think, I don't have to know, I have to discover. So put that inner critic knowing part, you know, the know-it-all part aside and just say, no, I'm going to find out how to do this.
Yeah. And another important thing that you did was, because there was the overthinking loop. I have to discover. Getting out of that loop by getting that outside feedback of course you can do it. And of course you can do it quicker, is what enabled the record to not keep going over the same scratch, and enabled it to move on so that you could actually take the action that you needed. It's that whole equivalent of nobody ran the 4-minute mile until somebody ran the 4-minute mile, and then everybody was running the 4-minute mile and faster.
Yes, agreed. And that introverted loop in particular for us introverts can be so seductive. So yeah, we need to get external point of view. And for extroverts, for our extroverted friends out there as well, you know, the extroverted loop can feel so enticing. And what you may need to do is do a little bit of introspection with the help of maybe an introvert in your life that teaches you to ask the questions that you need to ask yourself, so that you kind of slow your process down a little bit more. So it's like introverts need to speed up the action part in the outside world, and extroverts need to learn to slow down their thinking, you know, their emotional, internal, introspective process a little bit more. So we can all learn those skills and therefore learn to fail forward.
Absolutely.
So what happens if we don't make that differentiation between a person and an occurrence when it comes to failing? Is that we are left at the mercy of perfectionism. We're also left at the mercy of false impressions and a facade that we can't live up to. So when we can't kind of, you know, move on from that scratch on the record that keeps bringing it back, we start believing that we need to be perfect at all times. And this is particularly obvious in the social media sphere. You know, we believe that people post about their lives, and because people post only generally good things about their lives, that their lives are perfect and ours is not. But of course, that's not what's going on. Everybody has challenges. It's just that most people don't talk about those challenges. And if we're linked up on Facebook or on any of the other social media platforms, you know that we don't just talk about the stuff that's going well. We're also talking about the challenges. So finding that balance there is really important. And we need to break that attraction to that facade space, because it sets us up for unrealistic expectations. And the irony of that whole dynamic is that the people who pretend that their life is perfect are usually actually the most self-critical and most self-conscious and weak. And they're trying to by only posting about things that are good, they're trying to convince themselves that they're okay, that they're not a failure. But they don't then get the opportunity to flex those muscles, those failing forward muscles, and they don't then get the opportunity to really integrate themselves. So they have to keep relying on those appearances time and time and time again, and they isolate themselves because they can't ask for help. So one of the biggest gifts that we can do for ourselves is to really build up the real you. You know, the one that's really strong and smart and lovable, and that you acknowledge that you are those things. The real you has a lot more to offer to yourself and to the world than any version of you that's not whole. So we can really, if we can give ourselves to fail forward and be willing to fail forward and be ourselves, then we have the power, we the people have the power to change the dialogue from these unrealistic expectations into what real life looks like.
I actually want to really thank you, because learning to fail forward and learning that concept of it being an event and not a person, i.e. not me, was fundamentally changed the way that I think about things. Want to do them. It's helped at bay.
Yeah. It is one of those tools that really gives us a permission to be who we are, truly. And it's also an active process. It's not something um, that like learning to fail forward perfectly is not a thing. We're combating failing forward with the perfectionism, or we're combating perfectionism with failing forward. And so you can't fail forward perfectly either. So you have to like really get messy. You need to roll up your sleeves and get knee high into that mess of what's called life, and then start from somewhere, not start from exactly where we know we're going to succeed, but start from somewhere. And we really need to give ourselves a permission for an outcome to be different than what we imagined. We need to stop chastising ourselves from having taken action. Instead, learn from having taken action, then implement the learning, and then try again.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, go on.
Okay, I was going to say that failing forward is also a threat to part of the ego.
Yeah.
The part that keeps you from trying, let's say keeps me from trying to do something. Yeah. And when I take that away, that it's not about me, it's about what is happening and about the situation. My ego sometimes goes, oh no, we need to erase all of that. And this is how we get out of things. Perfectly, I do it right the first time, and I'm going to get all kinds of crap about it. Then what's the point in me doing it? And so now when I get ready to do something, I can look over at my ego, and my ego goes, go on.
I love it.
Go on. It's not going to kill you. It's not you. It's an event. Blah. And my ego goes just blah, 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 blah. You know the drill.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. To have those conversations with those different parts of us is so important. And if any one of you have done the 4 people within work, you can imagine the different parts of you as different people, but also you can imagine your ego or your inner critic, or you can imagine the inner narcissist or the inner sociopath or the inner empath, or there's all these different labels that we can put on these different parts of us that can help us become more of who we are. And what's really interesting is, and the saying, learn from your mistakes. Most people say, learn from your mistakes, and then most people think that it means, okay, you make several mistakes out there. You're making a mistake with this, you're making a mistake with that, and you're making a mistake with that other thing. Just learn from those. So most people actually only try something twice. So they do one thing. I'm going to go over here and write this article, and I've made a mistake in that article. Oh, I'm going to go and fix that. And now we have this mindset where we think that if we fail, then we try once more, and then it should be perfect. And that's not true either. So most people kind of give up after the second failure. Even if we do learn from our mistakes, so to speak. So I think the more accurate saying would be, learn as many times from trying different things around the same thing as you can, and that's what's going to make you a master in that particular thing. There are, I'll give you an example, and this is such a pertinent example for anybody who knows anything about horsemanship or natural horsemanship or working with horses. It humbles you, because you never learn anything, because the situations are different with horses and all the time, because they're instinctual animals. They will behave exactly the way that they will behave And you can't say to them, you can't have a conversation with them to say, when this happens, just, breathe in and breathe out and you'll be fine. They're going to have the reaction that they're going to have, and that's just how it is. So horses humble you. And so you never actually really learn anything other than humility and capacity to pivot in a moment. And that's what business is, especially startups. That's what having kids is. That's what, being in relationships is. That's what building a safe house for personal and professional development online is. That's what all of that is. And we need to be willing to pivot as many times as it takes. Because each of these so-called failures, they take us a step closer to that desired outcome. So learning in motion is actually what we call failing forward.
Mm-hmm. And that's what science is.
That's what science is.
Failing
100%.
forward.
100%.
And I think something that well, all of us can relate to, because we've all done it, is learning to walk. We don't try twice, fall down, and then crawl around on our hands and knees for the rest of our lives. If you can imagine adults crawling around on their hands and knees because they didn't pick up how to walk the second time.
Or have somebody cart us around in a pram.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. Just get it done over time. And I mean, for kids, how long does it take for kids to learn to walk? It takes months. It doesn't take years. It takes months. And then, of course, with kids, they run everywhere after a while. They're just like,
Yeah.
So I think when you I think when you give yourself a permission to fail, you get there much faster. If you take the time that it takes to fail forward, it takes less time to get a lot further than what you think. Because you said it, Lisa, like change is hard. And what would happen if kids just decided, oh, I'm not going to do this walking thing?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We have a bit of a delay on. So just if people see you're reacting in one way to something that I'm saying and I'm reacting in a way that seems a little bit, it's because there's just a tiny bit of a delay on the line.
That's okay. That's all right. So,
yep.
If we're unwilling to learn new things, I would suspect that we can make ourselves fail at reaching our goals. But again, remember, you're not a failure. A person is not a failure. Failure is an occurrence. So if we're going for things that if we have goals or visions or dreams or direction in life that we want to take, and we're unwilling to learn new things, then we will most likely not have good fortune and win the lottery or whatever. We will probably fail at reaching that goal. So if we are unwilling to learn new things, we can't really change things because we can't go to a different place without learning new skills and strategies. So what's the choice then? When we face a learning curve, such as taking on what we're talking about today and implementing that in your own life, then we're missing out on giving ourselves a permission to actually be ourselves fully, and the permission of healing and developing and integrating ourselves in a way that's meaningful for us.
Yep.
That's a pretty serious.
We missed out on the transformations as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just saying that that's a pretty serious, daunting kind of thought. What if we just don't give ourselves that permission? What will our lives look like? And I think we all know some of those really bitter old people who never got to actualize their dreams in life, and now they want to bring everybody else down.
Absolutely.
So What can we do to not be that person? What are you planning to fail forward at next, Lisa?
Oh, my next failing forward will be a group mentoring program, and
Yay.
it's a case of just doing it and getting it out there. Stop worrying about things like timing, what the content is going to be, because I have evidence that I'm a really good facilitator and an excellent mentor. And the two of these together need to get out there.
Yeah. And you've run the For People with an ebook club, and the people loved your facilitation in there. And the feedback speaks for itself. So yeah. So what are the things then that you'll have to fail at? They're like the more technical things, like the timing you mentioned. What else?
Yeah. Oh, there's the timing, the marketing around it. There is asking for help and support when I need it in a timely manner. There are like 10,000 different things. And the key to all of them is to just take the next, is to take the next step.
Yeah.
And take the next step and keep taking the next step. Because it's when I think about all of the things and have them running around in my head, that is what stops me from even taking the step. So I don't even get to a point where I can fail forward because I don't even take the step, and I'll still be in exactly the same place.
Right.
What about you? What is your next? Go on.
Yeah, no, I have so many things that come to mind as you're talking. I was going to say that your first failing forward exercise has to be to slow down the chatter and kind of soothe those parts of you that want to have that, keep having the conversation rather than taking the action. That's how it sounds. Okay, for me,
yes, absolutely.
My next failing forward moment will be later this morning when when you and I have another session with my mentor Kevin, because we are away right now and I need to somewhere find a space where I can do that session. So if I end up failing, what I used to consider a failure is I'm going to do it in the car, and nobody's going to think anything of it. We can get it recorded, so we don't even have to take notes. Like, I don't actually have to be in an office environment to do this session. I can be on the move once just so long as there's internet connection, we're good to go. So I think my next failing forward moment will be to stop worrying about what that might look like, that I'm not being professional.
Yes, absolutely.
So
absolutely. How many times do we let that being in the perfect place with the perfect connection we just let that get in the way? As long as we're heard and we're understood, that's all that matters.
Well, that's it. And as long as the message gets across and we have something of value to implement, we're failing forward.
Yep.
All right, so I think we've covered quite a lot today, and I hope that this debrief today has given you a solid understanding of what failing forward is and why is it important. So what failing forward is, it's a reframing of potentially, when you look at something that feels like a failure, that it's actually a reframing of it's an opportunity to learn. And why is it important to fail forward? Well, it's important that for a couple of reasons. One, that we can be fully ourselves and accept ourselves. It gives us the permission to be ourselves and be exactly how we are, and to be students of life. And secondly, it allows us to actually achieve the things that we want to achieve in life, so that we don't end up being that old bitter person who just criticizes everyone and has a problem with everyone because they're frustrated with themselves. So I hope that we've given ample material around those 2 points, because those 2 points giving yourself a permission to be yourself and giving yourself a permission to go for things that are important in your life are actually those things that allow you to actualize yourself, give an expression to who you really are. And that's what we need. That's what we need in the world. That's what I want to see in every person that I interact with. And if you're ready to practice failing forward in a safe environment, you can join our academy, which of course is our online personal and professional development safe house. And you can find that at sumiloft.com. You can go over there and request to join. There you will find not just this debrief, but you'll also find a learning unit attached to this debrief. And the learning unit will teach you how to fail forward to create a happy and meaningful life for yourself, and be purposeful and be intentional about your life in a way that's important to you. Now, if you are already a member, because some of you are who are tuning into this, you simply just log in and enjoy the full learning unit there. And if you're not a member already, as I said, you can request to join. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can just head on over to sumiloft.com and follow that process to request to join. So, Lisa, shall we move on to recording the learning unit around failing forward? And we'll continue with the next debrief next month. All right. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for that. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you at the platform. Take care.